Wear Garments, and today I'll be teaching you how to cut turtleneck palazzo jumpsuit. These are the required measurements: the bust, under bust, waist, hip, thigh, knee, crotch, the length of the jumpsuit, and the half length. The first thing is to determine the length of your jumpsuit. The length of my jumpsuit is 55 inches. So, and the half length is 15 inches. If I take away 15 inches from 45, I will have 40 inches remaining. So 40 inches plus 2 inches seam allowance, that is half inch for the waist seam allowance and 1.5 for the hemming allowance. So after that, I want to use this side as my starting point, so that was why I left like 1 inch seam allowance around here. So the first thing you do while taking your measurements, you remove 15 inches upward, which is your waist allowance. The 15 inches is going to start from the half inch seam allowance, from the waistline seam allowance. That's where you are going to place your 15 inches. So from there, I took my hip length, which is 24 inches, then my hip length, which is 24 inches, and my knee length, which is 34. So after that, you will take your round hip. My round hip is 39 divided by 4. I have 9 3/4. So that was what I measured here. I measured 9 3/4 here. So once you are done doing that, then you measure your crotch depth. How to get your crotch depth: you divide your hip divided by 4. Whatever you get, you add 2 inches to it. That's how to get your crotch length. The 2 inches is because you are making a jumpsuit. So this is what I have here. So 9 3/4 plus 2 inches, I have 11 3/4. Remember, you need to take the measurement from the half inch seam allowance. So I have 11 3/4, which is my crotch depth. And my crotch line, that divide whatever you have here, which is 9 3/4. You divide 9 3/4 divided by 4. Whatever you have, you just put it here. From this hip line here, you put it here. So mine is 2.4, which is around here. So I'm going to extend the crotch line. So from there, you go up by 2 inches just to determine how deep or high, so that you don't go too deep when you are cutting. So you curve it. You curve it like so. So once you are done curving this side, then we determine our waist. My waist measurement is 31. 31 divided by 4. 31 divided by 4, that should be 7 3/4. That should be 7 3/4. 7 3/4 is around here. And because I'm going to be adding that allowance here, so I'm going to be adding 1 inch that allowance. This is it. One inch that allowance, then another 1 inch seam allowance. So this is what I have here. see it here. So on the hip area, I'm also going to add 1 inch seam allowance, which is what I have here, and the knee area too. I'm going to add 1, so I'm adding 1 inch all through. This is a palazzo trouser, so I'm not going to be shaping it because I want it to be wide at the down part of it. So now I'm going to determine where my dart is going to start from, which is 4 inches. Another, if you are going for a jumpsuit, you need to determine your nipple to nipple. But if you are just sewing a trouser, you have to determine the midpoint of your thigh measurements. The midpoint of your thigh measurement, whatever the midpoint is, you have to take it through. You have to take it up to this place. But because I'm not shaping the trouser, so I don't really need the midpoint. I don't need the midpoint around here since I'm not going to shape it. So I'm going to take my dart allowance, which is 4. Like I said again, if you are going for a trouser, you need to use the midpoint as your dart. But because I want the upper part, the half length dart, I want it to match with the dart on the trouser. So that's why I'm going to be using my nipple to nipple measurements, so which is 4 inches. So I'll come down by, so from my hip allowance, from my hip measurement here, I will go up by 2 inches, which is here. So 2 inches, I have around 6.5. So this, my dart is going to extend up to 6.5 here, and you measure your 4 inches. Then you take ½ inch on both sides, which is here and here. Then you connect it. So I'm going to connect my waist to the hip, which is around here. I'm going to connect it together. Because I took exactly 1 inch at this side, so I'm not going to be shaping it down since it's already 1 inch. So this is my thigh measurement. So my thigh measurement is what I'm going to take all through up to the hem. So I have 11.75. So 11.75, I'm going to add 1 inch seam allowance as well. So I have 12.75. So I'm going to be measuring 12.75 all through. At this area here, I'm going to add ½ inch area. It's also for seam allowance. So I'm going to cut. So I've done cutting the front, so I'm going to cut the back pattern now. So for the back pattern, I also left 1 inch at the side as guideline for me. And also remember, because it is a jumpsuit, the upper part of the back pattern has to be longer than the front to give room for the butt. So I left 1 inch, but if you are on a big side, you can use 1.5 or 2 inches back pattern. So because of the back area, there is going to be zipper at the back area. But first, what we are going to do is to avoid the zip you are going to put at the back, to avoid it bulging up. So from here, I will come in by 1.5 inch, 1.5 inches, which is here. This is my 1.5 inches. Keep that in mind, 1.5 inch. Then from this place, I will come out by 1 inch. This is the 1 inch around here. And then I'll come down by 1/2 inch. This is 1/2 inch here. Then I will curve it. So you need to curve it like so. Open this place up. Then you join from here. Just blend it together, blend it well. Just remember, and see from this part. So I'm trying to blend it. So this is going to be my new side of the trouser. So after creating this place, then I will now take out my zipper allowance. So my zipper allowance is going to be, because there is 1/2 inch seam allowance here already, so I'm going to add 1/2 inch zipper allowance. So when I want to take it, I'm going to take 1 inch zipper allowance. But before I do that, then you measure whatever you have at the waist, at the front waist, which is 10.25. You measure what you have here, 10.25. Then you measure it from the new place we created here. You measure it, and this is what we have around here. See what we have. Then from here you slant it. It has to match with the front. You see? So this is it. So after you are done with that, you can now bring out your zipper allowance, which I'll be taking 1/2 inch. So we are going to be stopping around the hip area. So we are still maintaining this upper part here. So when you want to take your dart allowance as well, you start from here too. So I'm going to cut all through. All this allowance you're seeing here, we are going to sew everything by the time we start joining. So I'll cut from here first. So I want to notch the darts for the front. So I'm going to take the dart for the back once I join this place together. So what I did here, when I put the front pattern on this place and I calculated what was on the front waist here and calculated it here, is I did so that by the time you join the trouser together, it's going to match with the half length of the jumpsuit, so that it will align together. This is what the back pattern looks like. By the time I hold the darts, this place that looks high will come down by the time I insert the darts there. That's the essence of putting darts. So now I want to cut the half length of the jumpsuit. The half length of the jumpsuit is 15 inches. So I'm going to add 1 inch, extra 1 inch, that is half inch for joining allowance at the shoulder, then half inch for joining allowance at the waistline. So it makes it 16 inches. So my back measurement is 7.5. Shoulder slope of 1 inch. So my armhole depth is going to be 7.5. To determine your armhole depth, you can use your chest line, which is your back. Before you take your armhole depth, you must have measured the 1 inch for the shoulder slant. Then after the 1 inch, then you take your armhole depth, which is 7.5. That's what I'm taking. That's my armhole depth. So the center of my armhole, that's after the armhole depth. The center of my armhole depth is going to be 3/4. So you take half inch from there, come in by half inch, and then so now I'm going to be using normal waist darts for this. My under bust is 13. I'm going to measure 13 here. and my bust line is 9.5. My nipple to nipple is 7 plus 1 inch seam allowance, that's 8. So on fold is going to be 4 inches. So I'm going to be stopping 1 inch from my underbust, from my bust line. I'm not going to extend the dart up to my bust. I will stop 1 inch before my bust. So this is what I have. And I'll take ½ inch on both sides. So since I'm not cutting the dart off, I will just notch the dart area. Okay, so the length of my half length is going to be 16. I'm going to take that. So my bust is 34. 34 divided by 4, I have 8.5. So 8.5 plus 1 inch, that's 9.5. So this is my 9.5 here. So my under bust is 30. So 30 divided by 4, I have 7.5. 7.5 plus 1 inch dart allowance, then 1 inch seam allowance. That's 2. 2 plus 7.5, I have 9.5. So my waist is 31. 31 divided by 4, I have 7.75. 7.75 plus 2 inches, I have 9.75. So this is what I have. So I'm going to shape it. So because it's a turtleneck, I'm going to be using 2.5 for the front neck, 2.5 width, 2.5 width, and 2.5 depth. But the standard is 3 by 3. But each time I use 3 by 3, it's always wide for me, so I prefer using 2.5 by 2.5. I want it firm. So 2.5. But I'm not going to be cutting this now because the back is going to be, the depth for the back is going to be 1. It's going to be 1, so I'll take the back depth, which is 1. Then you slant. Remember the slanter. So it's going to be sleeveless. So I'll come in by 1 inch. Come in by 1 inch. Then I'll connect it here. I'll connect it to this point here. Remember the point. So I'm cutting the shoulder. Then I'll cut the back neckline first, which is 2.5 by 1. So then I will notch the darts. going to be leaving 1 inch for the zipper allowance for the back. 1 inch. For the zipper allowance. So I pinned it from here, from the zipper allowance. So one thing you also need to do here is from your under bust straight to your waist, you need to take away ½ inch. You need to take away ½ inch around here. So this is my. So you can just take it straight from your bust point here. So from there, and curve it. So, and once you've taken away the ½ inches, remember to add the ½ inch back here, because it's going to affect it. And do that a lot. So now we cut it out. So we notch the back dart as well, which is around here. Notch it. So now I'm going to recut the front neckline. So once I'm done joining the front shoulder and the back shoulder together, whatever I have there, is what is going to determine the band that I'm going to put at the neckline to make it turtleneck. So after joining this shoulder to this shoulder, so whatever measurement I have there is what I'm going to cut out to join on the neck area. So that's it about the jumpsuit. Thank you, and subscribe to my